And I'll tell you something. I don't think Epstein's dead. I don't. And you know what? I mean, I've studied and looked at this for hours and hours. There's so many red flags. There's so many weird scenarios. I mean, maybe he is dead, but something tells me that he got immunity. When have you ever seen a coroner bring out a body that was not zipped up? I mean, it was open, and if you combine the facial structure with Epstein's, it does not match up or align. So there's something really weird going on.
Well, look, let's put it this way. I won't go into whether he's dead or not, but I will say this. I believe he's dead, and I believe he was murdered. That's my conclusion. Epstein, I met Epstein.
George, I go back and forth. Part of me, if he's dead, obviously there's no doubt, no question, he was murdered. But what if he's not dead though? I mean, it was such a weird process. Go ahead though. Sorry.
Then he's at that famous island where Elvis is hiding all these years. But that's a whole different story. As far as Epstein, I met Epstein in a couple of private equity conferences. Like I said, I've never dealt with him personally, but I've met him. I've seen him. I'm 6'2", and the guy was taller than me. There's just no way you can hang yourself off of a bunk bed at that height. I can't hang myself off of a bunk bed because human instinct kicks right in, and first thing you do is you stand up. You just don't need to suffocation and to strangling yourself. So that's just not possible. The human brain is wired a very specific way, and it's for survival. And the whole story is just so skewed. He didn't hang himself. He was murdered. And, yes, he's dead in what perceives to be my opinion. But, hey, look, it's 2020. I've seen the most bizarre, unthinkable, and unimaginable happen this year, from the world economy crashing, from New York City becoming ghost town for 3 months, from looting and rioting being praised and law and order being literally demonized. I wouldn't put it past me, Rory. I wouldn't put it past me that he's still walking around us, and we're all like, oh, my God, the guy's alive, and we can't tell. So, you know what? It's 2020. Anything can happen.
Well, let me ask you this. So, oh, my God, you just opened a whole nother quick conversation before I let you go. I want to ask you, what was he like? I mean, when you interacted with him, and here's here's the $1 million question, or even the $1 billion question. How did he make all his money? That is still a mystery. Not a lot of people can figure it out. Some people can. My research concluded to, he was getting all this interest off of investing all these large people's money. I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, what else? I mean,
the way
he was
he
in
made
bed
his money is
obviously
very
with
simple.
Yeah.
The way he made his money is actually a very simple process that is considerably illegal today, but when he made it, it was totally legal. He was a liaison that got kickbacks from referring good investment deals. He'd take his money from his kickbacks, which is completely illegal today with the regulations the FEC have installed, but SEC has installed. But it was legal to receive kickbacks on investment deals, introductions. So what Epstein largely did was grow other people's money and make money on top of that, and then apply his money into the most lucrative thing of the 80s and 90s, which was muni bonds. For those of you who don't know, is municipal bonds, which were non-coupon bonds that would yield in some occasions 40%. So all these things were regulated to not happen anymore. He was just at the right time, at the right moment, with the right idea. He's one of those very lucky stories of, I got lucky because I was in the right place at the right time. As far as interacting with him, like I said, private equity conferences, you don't really get to know a good feel for the guy. But from what my coffee, high and by, 2-minute conversation, standing by a pastry table, grabbing some coffee, was a very pleasant individual. I'm not saying he's a pleasant person, and especially after everything that's come out in the media, but a very pleasant guy, very cordial, gentleman, and kind. But who would know the guy has an island that sex traffics little girls and boys to satisfy the pleasure of Prince Andrew and Bill Clinton. And that's to name a few. I would have never in a million years thought that he'd be that kind of guy, but it ends up he was. And, if he died, yeah, sure, I don't believe in killing people. I believe in putting them through the criminal justice system and making them pay for their crimes. I get a lot of pleasure in seeing people pay for their crimes in jail, not putting them on a chair or giving them a shot, because that's the easy way out. The hard way is live old. Live old and strip from all your privileges and luxuries in a jail cell. That's real torture. That's the purgatory. That's where people really suffer. When you kill them, you gave them the easy way out. But that's debatable.
Yeah. Did you ever let me ask you this. Like, I'm sure you knew people that worked very closely with him, because from what it sounds like, the New York City financial market, it's seems to be everybody knows each other kind of world. Everybody hears about, all the gossip, everything that's going on. Did you ever hear stories? Did you ever hear from other people? Man, that guy you got to stay away from. He's a sketchy individual. He's involved with some, Go ahead.
Well, look at it this way. When I was starting my career 11 years ago, he was already ending his and pretty much just setting it all off into his private equity fund, right? So only stories I've ever heard of Epstein are he does some of the best parties in the city, and again, drug-laced, sex-laced, whatever you want to talk about. But aside from the stories that everybody's heard, and that's pretty much public knowledge, I've never heard anything juicy, Rory. Unfortunately, I'm not that well, I'd say, connected with the elite. The people I tend to work with and the people I have worked with tend to be some of the most honorable people in business, and I'm very, blessed to have had clients and dealings with people who walk a straight line and they're not into big scandals. It would have been a hard career for me if I had to cover up every time a client of mine got busted for having a sex trafficking island. So I'm glad that wasn't my case, and he was never my client, and I never had to endure. But aside from all the stories we hear that he can throw a party and everybody got this and that, and there was, swingers or whatever the case is, nothing juicy, nothing that I think you haven't heard.
Let me ask you this. Do you think you ever did a business transaction with anyone that visited Epstein Island for a party?
That's a great question. I would need to see the list of all those people, and I could answer that. But from my understanding, I have not. But maybe. You just never know. Look, I've transacted multi-billion-dollar deals in my life, specifically in private equity. You do what you got to do. But to my knowledge, no, I have not.
Yeah, I'll tell you though. This whole.
Hey, I'd be the first one to tell people. I'd be the first one out there shaming them and making sure. He's a pedo. He was in the island. I did this much business for him, and I regret it.
I know you would. I know you're a good guy. I know you're a true patriot. It's just a small world.